so that problem was addressed in Buddhism, and that's how it pervaded India. Then, when it came to Tibet, the problem in Tibet was, of course, the tribes of the planet have always been shamans, but in Tibet, the shamanism was violent. By that I mean they were perpetuating the spirits so they could get their rain for their crops, and they were using animal and human sacrifice. Anyway, this tradition alleviated that problem and caused it to spread through Tibet, Mongolia, Eastern China, and so forth. So that's what is today called Tibetan Buddhism. Now, what are we doing in our culture, the Western world, which is mostly Europe, the United States, and Canada? This transmission, as I call it, comes from a teacher to disciple, unbroken lineage down to the present day, because of the transmission is necessary for the humans as they are today, which they haven't changed very much in the last 2,600 years. And the problem today is we have 7 billion humans, the Dalai Lama calls a population bomb, and you can see what it's doing to the environment of the planet. So it's absolutely necessary to change our thinking. And I use that term thinking because the mind controls the speech and actions of the individual. Also, the mind is able to project outside through symbols and focus and cause disturbances to alleviate outside in other individuals, in the animal world, spirit world, and in our environment, which is stress to the max. What is this? This is not a religion. I say that because most Buddhists in the world are religion. They treat it like any other religion where you think that the Buddha is a supreme being, and if you follow the teachings, you'll go to some pure land like a heaven. And it's very superstitious and involves a lot of things like receiving blessings, using astrology, and made up stuff. Anyway, here we're down to the present day. This transmission is still all about healing, but multi-level healing, not so much symptomatic, but for the body. Then the body is generated in such a way that the dense blockages in the body are alleviated into more subtle and subtle channeling of what is called light or energy. Then this program, as I'm going to call it, works exactly like a computer. So the mind of humans, no matter what they think about their mind, is simply a computer. And it's only as intelligent as what we put into it, and it projects outward because of its power emotionally. And it actually relates to what what humans are sensing and thinking about, whether it be past, present, or future, emotionally. This emotional program is not only disturbing, causing pain and suffering, but it also causes distortion in the energy fields of what you are sensing. And then these energies are transformed to the body through various secretions generated by the brain, excuse me. In the process, the physical becomes depleted or unhealthy. And of course, we still have the natural state of caused by taking birth of aging, sickness or disease, and leaving the body we call death. So I want you to think of this program tonight as a twofold reprogramming of your intellectual body, but at the same time increasing the energy necessary for the body to remain healthy. And the whole idea of health in our tradition is based on practice. And the practice uses codes, just like in a computer. And these codes are based on numbers, they're based on colors, and they're based on the imaginary process of creating pictures in the mind. Now, a very simple explanation of what the mind is it has two aspects. We have the relative aspect, the way the 7 billion humans are on this planet today. And then we have what is called an ultimate aspect of consciousness. Both of these are innate, and they are operating simultaneously. And how they operate is with what we call awareness. Awareness simply means that how we direct our view. How do we direct our sensual perceptions? How do we direct our thinking? So right now in the world today, because of the industrial age, all the awareness is on thinking. In other words, with the intake of your senses, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling, and the thinking process linked to those sensual perceptions, this incoming program is distorted. And it's distorted because, first of all, we have an ignorant idea, which is actually an emotional tendency caused by the conditioning of everybody from the time we took birth to the present, of thinking that everything is separate. We're essentially locating that way. Subject here, object over there, interaction, which is false. Because in the nature of the universe, the basis of everything is energy, which is simply the fabric of space in light forms. And because of this and the distortion caused, the result is more emotional dysfunction. So since we think everything's separate when it's not, everything is totally integrated, and you must very firmly contemplate this idea that there is no such thing as separation on any level of existence, that outside and inside are integrated. Therefore, you can change your outer situation, and you can change your inner situation simply by discipline. Now, the simplest explanation of this is this little disc given to me by a lovely people, a child. But this little disc has a rainbow color code around the outside and a clear piece of plastic in the middle. And this, because everything that we do in Tibetan Buddhism is based on the ability to focus and use these symbols, as I said, were numbers, colors, and actual symbolic representations creatively displayed. The center one is clear awareness. In other words, an aspect in your consciousness which pervades your body that the emotional energy program can't operate in. So that means attachment, aversion, pride, jealousy, fear, anxiety, depression, and thousands of other predispositions that we've adopted as habits in the human condition. So what we are doing with these practices is redirecting energy away from the emotional involvement with objects, more and more to the clear nature of our consciousness, which doesn't operate that way. And it can be compared to a hard drive in a computer. Your computer hard drive is called the alaya, and it is the tendencies that you have adopted, energetic tendency, from many previous lives in the past up to the present time. And these tendencies come out inadvertently according to outer condition. But this tendency, the alaya, is like a storehouse in a computer. So a good comes out, bad comes out. Why? Because it's of the energy, and then the outer condition called karmic condition caused it to arise. So we are dealing with that subliminal aspect of our consciousness directly with these practices. The second part of the mind is the emotional conflict caused by the attachment, aversion, pride, jealousy, ignorance aspect. And that's, again, all human beings have this. So more and more we want to discipline the mind to eliminate the negative tendencies or erase them as glitches in our computer, trash them, and more put in the program or software by practice, which is the only way to do it, of a mind-to-mind transmission from the teacher who is doing these practices and the lineage that is getting the transmission of this as a health code. And then you slowly start to discern that things are getting better because you're doing these practices, which is encouraging. If things become worse and more distorted and you become more emotionally conflicted, then obviously the practice is not working. That's where the Lama comes in. Lamas in Tibetan Buddhism are trained in the two natures of mind. They're trained in the relative one, which we all possess, and how to direct the awareness away from that into the clear nature. The clear nature of awareness in Buddhism is called Buddha. It simply means, the word Buddha simply means a mature human being who is integrating sound and light as energy patterns in their body, speech, and mind. And that's the only three ways you can do it. There's nothing more than that. There's nothing beyond this, for instance. It's the nature of the universe. And even though the universe has its own program, which we don't always agree with, because it can get very violent, we still need to be in harmony with it. So I'm going to show you three symbols, and you're already doing this in practice, but I want to demonstrate the power of symbols. For instance, we connect to the breath with a color code of the three lights. When we do that, the first energy pattern we're bringing in is the clear light of the life force of the universe, and establishing it in the brain, the head, which is your computer, as available to the body, which right away increases the energy within the body and causes distortions or glitches to start to dissipate to more subtle and subtle levels of light. The second energy code we do is what the body does anyway. It spontaneously takes the breath and transforms the energy through the body. It's called the absorption process. And we use the code of the red light. And if you notice, both of these are spheres. Spheres are universal symbols of the nature of a three-dimensional world. That's why our planets are this way, our galaxies are more or less this way, the atom is this way, and so forth. But in Tibetan Buddhism, we're doing a very unique thing. We're exhaling the energy of those two as blue light available to others throughout space. And the reason I use this term throughout space is because space is completely inhabited by sentient beings. There isn't anywhere you can go in the universe you won't find spirits. And animals and humans, of course, can only locate on appropriate planets throughout the universe. But the spirit energy is universal. So we're using that universal energy to bring the body, speech, and mind, which is what these three codes are applied to, into a state of union which clears up the distortion or the glitches. So when the body, speech, and mind is in the same place, which is what it's starting to do with this breathing three lights code, is it creates another dimension of your own natural clarity. And that creates power. Power creates energy. Now, anybody can do this with a little bit of practice, but you have to have a safeguard. And the safeguard in Tibetan Buddhism is the Lama and the lineage as a generator of altruistic compassion, which means this is impartially applied to every sentient being. Why? Because we all have suffering. And it's implied with the methods of these practices and the motivations so that compassion or loving kindness is the basis. Because without those two, power is very dangerous. As you can see with this situation of who's running the planet. At all levels of our social structure, we have distortion. Government officials, religious leaders, corporate entities, the military, and now we're down to what we call the industrial distraction, which is moving us away from the connection to the natural world into toys, products, and so forth, which are very dangerous. They don't have to be, but because they're so distracting, that's causing more and more physical problems, both through the individual and society and the planet itself. So the very simple symbol of what we are doing is the mind's two natures. The one of the relative situation, which we're all doing, and the clarity of the mind, which is the antidote. And how it's applied, we have thousands of methods. Now we're going to start this morning this program, this software program, with a refuge connection. In other words, we're connecting to our own Buddha nature as the inner source of this compassion, power, and insight, and with an outer support. And then we're adopting the altruistic attitude to replace the conditional attitude that we have been and are operating from. So this is why we take refuge. Without this, all the practices of Tibetan Buddhism are counterproductive. So we start with refuge. Then I'll explain the refuge. In order to attain enlightenment or maturity for ourselves and limitless sentient beings, our mothers, we now all together take refuge and offer prostration. We go for refuge to all the lamas. We go for refuge to all the idams, the deities gathered in the mandalas. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, those who have matured and conquered the mind and gone beyond. We go for refuge to all this supreme Dharma practices. We go for refuge to all the noble Sangha. We go for refuge to all Dakas and Dakini symbols. All of these six are the protectors and defenders of the Dharma, and all of these possess the eye of transcending awareness. Then we use the Sanskrit language to not only interpret the Dharma, because we don't have these descriptions in our cultural language, but also to communicate this to the spirit world, which spirits live for hundreds or thousands of years, compared to us, short-term, 50 or 100 years. So we chant in Tibetan this prayer. Alden Lama Dampa Namla Chapsu Chiyo Yedam Chokorgi Latso Namla Chapsu Chiyo Sanjay Chon Dende Namla Chapsu Chiyo Tampe Chur Namla Chapsu Chiyo Taupe Gendun Namla Chapsu Chiyo Awo Kandro Chokyun Sume Sho Yeshe Ki Shendang Gempa Namla Chapsuchyo. Namla Chapsuchyo is attached to each of these 6 refuges, which simply means we all together do these practices. And we interpret that as we start to think that whatever we're doing, everybody else, at least in our mind, is adopting the same position. Then the second prayer that we incorporate into the refuge is that of being a bodhisattva and developing the mind of a bodhisattva, which is intentionally connecting to the state of clarity. And this is these 6 refuges with these 6 disciplines of the bodhisattva path. To the Buddha, Dharma, and this supreme assembly of the 6 refuges, I go for refuge to enlightenment. May I, through the merit gained from practicing these 6 disciplines, accomplish Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Then we communicate that to the Spirit. Sanjay Chodam Choki Chodam La Chengchu Bardu Dagni Chapsruchi Dagi Jin Soji Pe Sonam Hidro La Venture Sanjay Jupar Cho. So here we have this altruistic motivation, which is unique. No other healing practice on the planet adopts this motivation of using impartially applied compassion to all of the sentient beings, all the spirits, animals, and humans, and has this development of connecting to the state of clarity as one of the disciplines. It's the 6th discipline. The first 5 are the first is generosity, applied on both the relative and ultimate level. Morality, which includes ethics, good manners, and actually practicing the discipline. That's number 2. Number 3 is patience. This has to be applied to oneself and to all others, and of course to the environment. The 4th one is diligence, that these practices are integrated into one's lifestyle and done on a daily basis. Why? For good health and energy for the body. Number 4 is the actual discipline of practice, which involves meditative focus and what we call yoga, which are disciplines applied to the body and how we think and to stabilize the emotional glitches. Number 6 is the direct intentional connection to the clarity of our mind, which we have described as 3 qualities. The first quality of this clarity of the mind is a state of voidness, which is the nature of the universe, space, and the light of space, which is both dark matter and light matter. The second quality of this state of clarity is because there's no emotional involvement in this state, can't exist there, one starts to experience bliss. And bliss is not a conceptual experience, it's a very profound spiritual experience which leads to realization that this is more useful than the way we're doing it now. Or at least it starts to clean up the glitches in our computer. And the third quality is the clarity of intelligence, of knowing what we are doing and why we are doing it and the result. And the knowledge takes us to the state of clarity. And once we enter that door, actually, we don't need the knowledge there because it's a state of light. Simply that. And that's the nature of the universe. So then your mind more and more starts to become in harmony with the entire life force of our three-dimensional phenomenal world. All of this is capped under refuge. So understanding is important. What is the Lama's function? To interpret, both on the relative and ultimate level, how this app works. App is a good word, application, like the app on an iPhone. The second function of the Lama is to give the transmission so that the energy of the lineage and the Lama's mind, which is involving thousands and thousands of men and women doing these practices, is transferred to the practitioner, you. And the third aspect of the Lama is just to set a good example. Here's an ordinary human being, you know, householder, monk, nun, some people are yogis and yogini, can accomplish fast, directly, this connection to your innate state of awareness and cause it to become very useful, very practical. Not something that's supernatural or divine or superior or something. No, this is our nature. This is who we are. And our mothers intended for us to not only survive, but also become mature. So that's the result. This refuge was taken from a text in Tibetan Buddhism, which I started to practice in 1977, called The Plenary Practices of Tantric Yoga. And the text has been around, this particular text transmission has been around in Tibet for about 1,000 years. Because the age of communication started making it available to print, this oral transmission became accessible and was used very extensively in the monasteries and nunneries in Tibet, which there are 6,000 monasteries and over 2,000 nunneries, to practice these as sutra. But sutra is the basis of all of the Tibetan tradition of using the 6 disciplines of the Bodhisattva together with what we call focus and imagination as our true nature, which we call Tantra. Now, Tantra is a word that's very widely used, especially in communication in the Western world, as something akin to sexual activity, which it is. But the Tantra that we're talking about is to bring into union, like you do in sex, your ordinary situation with your awareness, this state of clarity, which is innate. All of us have it. And you can see how this functions when you start to become more and more intuitive and start to value that and apply it, trust it, and see its practicality. Also, Tantra is a health program. In other words, with the basis of this form of practice, the altruistic motivation as the methods. So these two come together, like the right hand is your method, the left hand is your motivation, you put them together. Now you have harmony, you have union, you have working. So when you move to the Nungo, the basis of Tantra in Tibetan Buddhism, as a preliminary, it's not really a preliminary, it's an actual wisdom program. It's a software solely based on clarity, but you can integrate it into the relative. And that's the practice. And it mentions this word prostrations in the refuge. Prostrations is a direct method of the preliminary practice to bring the body, speech, and mind together fast, physically, mentally, and visually. result with the imagination. And we do this by sounding the refuge prayer. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, Lama deities and protectors in order to bring all beings to maturity. While you're laying down and diving into space, like you dive off a diving board on the floor, and you visualize all these refuges in front of you, and there are many symbols for this. Our lineage uses a refuge tree, which symbolizes you can get under the tree and out of the elements. But in any case, that's the basic practice that causes you to become less arrogant, less angry, less emotionally conflicted, less fearful. In fact, fear doesn't work at all. You just toss that one out, trash that right away. Fear and worry about anything, past, present, or future. And causes you to become heartfelt. So we're using the computer programming going on up here, which all of us are top heavy, and transferring that to the heart. The heart is the motherly principle of loving kindness and compassion, in the same way the mother's relationship is for the children. And the human race right now is acting like 7 billion immature children. So we need this. We need to start to mature. So I just explained refuge and prostrations, which is the first of the preliminary tantric practices. Now, why are you inclined to do this? Why are you watching this transmission from Lama Tashi in a remote place out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean called Hawaii? It is because you have practiced this before. And that went into your hard drive, and now you have the inclination to connect again. Because each life is very similar to the last life, but the conditions change. And look at the conditions of the world ago. We're bound in an industrial age that is very distracting, if not very dangerous, on all levels, from the food supply to the toys. So the second practice that we involve ourselves in is acknowledging these past lives and this life, that we're doing things kind of harmfully. And when I say the word harm, that's my definition of morality. That's Tibetan Buddhism, the definition of being immoral. Harm to oneself, harm to others, and harm to the environment doesn't work. 100% toxic. So the second practice of the Tantric tradition of Tibetan Buddhism is to remove for the practitioner any obstruction from past lives up to the present time that would cause obstacles to the development of good health and the realization of one's true nature. And that practice is presented both in the Sutra and the Tantric tradition. In the Sutra tradition, it's called confession. In the Tantric tradition, it's called clearing, okay, or removing. And they're basically done the same way, but the Tantric tradition is faster. Why, again, are we doing this? As I said before, we've done this before in past lives, and now we have this extraordinary situation to, again, acquire this energy program in this life. But you should also understand that you're impermanent. That you want to do this now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you're older, now. And you can do it wherever you are. You don't have to become a monk or nun or a highly accomplished yogi or yogini like in India and some other places. All you have to do is use your leisure time or create leisure time. Like you go on a vacation to Hawaii, you have to create that few days of leisure time. So that is based on the idea that your next breath or your next life, you don't know which comes first. Nobody does. So each breath could be your last one. You should contemplate it. Why? Because it gives you the incentive to practice now. The third idea that we entertain to do practice is we have karma. The human race doesn't believe in karma, or they wouldn't act the way they do. On any level. And karma simply means what you say, think, and do actively, your activities produce a result. To what? Your future. This life and your future life. And so it's very important to get the glitches out of this karmic program that causes in your future pain and suffering or unfavorable rebirth. So you should contemplate that. That's another reason why we're doing these practices. And the fourth idea is easy to understand. And that is this conditioned rebirth that everybody else has laid their trip on you from the time you were born to now is dysfunctional. And it's ongoing. You know, everybody wants you to believe the way they think or the way they are is the way you should be. And I'll give you an example. In the 60s, we had a revolution. And the young people in the United States decided, en masse, that war wasn't appropriate. And what war was going on then was the Vietnam War. And so they revolted against their parents, against society, against the establishment, against religion, and all of this. Why? Because of the mass murder and mayhem that our country was inflicting on these other countries. Men, women, and children, civilians, and so forth. And this in a word became what is called hip. And hip means, you understand, in Hawaii we say akamai. Akamai means you know what to do is beneficial, is appropriate, is healthy. It's good for you and the environment and everybody around you, the animals, humans, and spirits. So you start to understand that your conditioned existence is unfavorable. And you start to recondition the conditioned existence. Also, you got to be in harmony with nature, because nature has its own program. And earth, water, fire, air, and space, the 5 elements, 4 of those can kill you or cause you to be very sick. Earth, water, fire, and air. The space one actually is a mental application. But the other 4 have to exist because of the space condition. And what are the 4 kinds of suffering? Are simply physically, mentally, emotional, and spiritual. Spiritual means out of harmony. With what? Nature and your natural mind. These 2 are the universe. This is the cause of the universe. Now, this sounds kind of heady, but if you contemplate these, you have an extraordinary condition based on what you did in the past coming into this present, and you have all of the, the necessities besides your inclination. You have the ability, you have the leisure time, and you have the support. So you can do it. And in Nungro practice, which is called the preliminary practice, you're actually using all of that to change, to become hip, to understand. And reach a state of clarity that you can go to anytime you want to. You don't have to die to go to clarity. It's your nature. And that brings us to the third practice, tantric practice. This is this word tantra. In Tibetan it's called Mahayana Buddhism, or in Tantra, Vajrayana Buddhism. The third practice of the preliminary practice is to make offerings. And the most powerful offering that you can make is all the very best of the human condition and all the very best of what they call the celestial spirit realms, referred to as gods and goddesses, to your clear light nature, which is represented by the Lama and the Lama symbols of deities and protectors, and all the mature humans called Buddhas, and all those practicing to become mature bodhisattvas. All of the best of that you offer to your own clear nature, represented inside by your awareness, and outside by the teachers, by the people practicing, by the powerful words that we use called mantra and so forth. All of that you offer as a light show. And then you break it down into water, food, and clothing, and perfume, and et cetera, all the very nice stuff. Home, cars, friends, lovers, pets, whatever. Medicine. That's offering. And the way you start to do this in tantric practice, I suggest that every morning you put out a little bowl of water or sake, or some kind of liquid, and a little bowl of food, and offer it to the spirits. Put it in a place of respect and honor if you don't have an actual shrine set up. And at the end of the day, throw it outside. You've made a connection to a health program that the spirit world are in. And they inherit your body. They're in your body. They're all around you and everything. And some of them are pretty uppity and some of them are okay. But being in harmony and acknowledging this spirit energy is useful, very practical. And this is a very easy way to start this rolling, besides communicating the two refuge prayers to these spirits in Sanskrit, Tibetan Sanskrit, or Indian Sanskrit, if you're from India. And the fourth practice is Guru Yoga itself. The Guru is a symbol. The Guru, or Lama in this case, or Sensei, or whatever other traditions call the teacher, is simply an outer manifestation because of your good spiritual karma of your innate state of awareness developing. Developing what? Insight, inner vision, which has the three qualities. Voidness, which is not emptiness, because voidness means quantum, everything useful. Bliss, get out of the drama program. Start to disconnect gradually. If you try to do it all at once, in this age, you won't have it. And you definitely need a spiritual guide, that's the Lama. And you start to extend to this devotionally, which is the way you treated or should have treated your mother and father, with devotion, honor, and respect. Not just love. And so this devotion is actually the theme of all Tibetan Buddhism as the outer Lama of a symbol of a completely mature human being, man or woman, and sometimes it's depicted as the man and woman in sexual union, which is where the word Tantra developed from creative artistic expression into actuality in our culture. in sex, actual sexual practices. And that is useful, especially if they're presented by qualified people doing these practices, such as Devi and Marta, to that as a healing modality, in the same way massage is a healing modality, acupuncture. The one that was presented recently, cupping. But any healing modality, how you eat, how you exercise, prostration, I mentioned. So these four, when you do an actual deity yoga like Tara, or Chenrezig, or any of the 1,000 other deities used in Tibetan Buddhism, because they had a long time and they didn't have anything else to do, developed. And if you use one of these, all the rest are similar. And they involve three things applied to your body, speech, and mind. Compassion, altruistic compassion, unconditional love. Number two, unconditional love. Wow. What is that? Well, if you think about romantic love and how it is, and substitute unconditional love, you got a better program. Okay, the other one's good for selling products, but it causes a lot of disturbance. And the number three, the bliss aspect, is simply being clear in your thinking and your activity and your speech, developing powerful speech. And this is evolving with tantric practices. Mantra connecting to what you're visualizing, whatever symbol you're visualizing. So here we have the four tantric preliminary practices. Taking refuge and, if possible, doing the prostration. Clearing negative energy of the past up to the present and everything you said that was harmful, thinking-wise, speech-wise, action-wise. Number three, using offerings not only to clear your obstacles to your states of experience and realization with these practices, but also to benefit the spirit. And finally, directly connection to the Lama as the source of all this programming, representing a lineage of thousands of men and women, and thousands in the present time practicing, doing these practices. We call that the Sangha. And if you understand that this is all written down, for some, that's an easier way to go. That's the sutra tradition. So you read the text and then you do the practice. Then you go to the next one, you read the text and you do the practice. And you have to use your memory because some of this mantra and so forth requires you to establish it that way. Because it connects with your visualization and what you're actually doing. Number three, making offerings, absolutely important because with that you acquire what is called merit, which is the source of all enrichment and good health. And finally, mind-to-mind connection with the Lama, the transmission of the Lama's mind of insight flows into your mind, like water filling a bowl. It works. It's been going on for thousands of years, so here we are. Devi and Marta do their practice based on this sheet that we made up showing the refuge and the bodhicitta prayer. And on the back are the four thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma practice. And there's one very important practice called the four immeasurables, which simply, you think of all sentient beings as your mother. Whether or not you liked your mother or knew your mother doesn't matter. Everybody in this universe is your mother. They're all part of your life support program. Everything you have came from somebody else, for instance. So these four thoughts are called immeasurable because they apply impartially to every being, animal, human, and spirit. Those are the only ones suffering. The plant world, mineral world doesn't suffer. Sentient beings suffer because of their emotionality. So these four thoughts I had to say these 111,111 times as directed by my teacher who lives in Honolulu, Lama Tashi, as part of the preliminary practice of Tantra. And it goes like this. May all beings be happy by my establishing altruistic compassion and unconditional love in my mind. Number two, may all beings be away from suffering and the causes of suffering or pain by my being impartially compassionate, using the two levels of my consciousness to express that compassion, worldly compassion and the ultimate compassion, clarity. Number three, may all beings be established in a state of bliss or maturity by my doing the practice. And that simply means in your mind, they're all that way. Outside, you apply that to. You can't change outside. If you try to, it's unworkable. Number four, may all beings use the emotions as a remedy to achieve a state of clarity, and at the very least, become emotionally stable. Which simply means remove all anger, all states of psychosis, any idea of harm, hatred, rage. Remove the attachment that causes so much suffering. Remove jealousy, this feeling of inferiority, which can lead to suicide or death because of what we call depression, downward going. And finally, remove the pride and arrogance associated with the human condition when you accomplish things. Wealth, spiritual practice, your relationships, and so forth. Abilities, knowledge, collecting knowledge, be careful. So may all beings be happy, may all beings be free of suffering, may all beings establish in bliss through my practice, through our practice. And may all beings become emotionally stable, free of anxiety, depression, fear, attachment, aversion, pride, jealousy, and ignorance, delusion. Now what Davy and Marta are doing is unique. This transmission only works because of their practice. To apply healing energy to this state of sexuality, which has caused the earth to become overpopulated, or what the Dalai Lama comes, we are the population bomb, undisciplined sex, and so forth. We're changing the idea of procreation into something that most people are involved with, regardless of gender, and we have many genders today. And what the industrial age, or this modern age, has done is through sexuality, many people have become damaged, harmed, through sexual involvement, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And that requires very powerful healing, very skillful. And so not just anybody can do this, and not very many people know how to do this. But it's necessary. And so more and more people are starting to use this as presented by Davy and Marta, these healing tendencies. They're not the only ones, but they're my students, so I sponsor them. And I can do that because I'm not a monk or a nun. Monk and nuns cannot give this transmission. Only a householder Lama can do that. And it's very important that that householder Lama has done these practices and is okay with female and male sexuality. And us humans, we have to be both, because in the body, the energy of the male and female is a life force. The outer life force, the inner life force, not separate. So you very powerfully bring these two together through these practices. Then extend it to whatever healing modality that you have accomplished in. And everybody has their own healing methods. That said, we come to the what we call the dedication. Now, this is what we do at the end of the session, but I want to give an explanation that whatever you are developing, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually it's insight or awareness, whatever you are developing, since there's no such thing as separation, obviously it's for everybody else. Obviously, if there's no separation, that means you are included. So take away the I. Stop thinking about I, me, and mine. It's not workable. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a soul. That's a concept. The idea of supreme beings is a concept. Or lesser beings. No, level the playing field. And the dedication prayer is doing that. In other words, you impartially apply whatever good results you're getting from being a practitioner of this tradition or any healing modality to everybody in the whole universe. As if they were your family in the universe, think of it as your home. Because you've been everywhere in this universe in previous lives. And since the law of impermanence is the state of the universe and our minds, we accept that. So you dedicate all your virtuous activity of your body, speech, and mind, that all beings not only attain happiness and remove themselves from suffering, but establish themselves in the bliss of your void nature, clarity, which is the light of everything, and become mature. That's a dedication prayer. And there are thousands of these. They're all worded differently, but basically they're all saying the same thing. And there's nothing more than this, you know? You say, oh, where do we go from here? There's nowhere to go from here, which is good. You can relax. Don't have fear about your future, this and that. Don't go to your past, which all has disappeared, gone. Stay present, stay focused. The present is the happening. And refine that present to smaller and smaller increments of time, which is a concept. So that you start to experience timelessness. Once you start to experience timelessness, you can really relax. Because now you don't have the tension of a time sequential condition of existence. That's what the Buddha Shakyamuni did 2,600 years ago. Then he spent 45 years explaining it to the people of India. And from all of that, we've come down to the present day. And all the lamas are doing the same thing. the training of body, speech, and mind with compassion, power, and insight. And they all have their own methods, ability. Just like I can speak in your language, most Lamas cannot. They're from Bhutan or Sikkim or Nepal or Kashmir or Tibet or Mongolia. 6 dialects in Tibet, very hard to deal with, Tibet. So they use the basis of the Sanskrit language to cross-culturally communicate this and then to do the translation and get a guy like me or a woman like me as an interpreter so that you can understand and through your understanding be at ease, relax, and use your own innate abilities and intelligence to develop. That's what you're dedicating. And then finally we come to the path of skillful means. And you must understand that the number, the colors, and the symbols are universal. They're primordially universal. They're primordially present. That means no beginning, middle, or end. Everywhere useful. And so we've used the 5 elements for healing in all the cultures of our planet for at least 100,000 years as we developed, evolved, better word. And all the tribes of the planet communicated with the spirits using these 5 elemental conditions of their surroundings. The earth, water, fire, air, and space, which can be interpreted culturally in different ways, but it's all the same energy program. And these 5 elements, earth, water, fire, and air, are the female mothers of the universe. Everything that appears in dark or light matter is the 5 elements. And they operate inseparably. In other words, we're back to that idea of there's no separation or unity. And the earth, water, fire, air in our culture is to get us back to nature. Get us back in touch with the natural world as healers. Sha women, modern day term is shaman, but it's actually Sha women because we're all mothers. And these are mother principles. For instance, our galaxy is the mother of our solar system. Our solar system is the mother of our sun. Our sun is the mother of our planet. The life on the planet is supported by all of these. Everything that you have in your body is earth, water, fire, air, and space, and nothing else. And my own mother, who was a Dakini, she explained to me that no matter what anybody says, she created me. And she found that in my head. Don't ever forget it. Don't let anybody tell you different. My father was a Catholic. Of course, they have their own idea. But in coming to these 5 elements and using them in practice, you're directly connecting to the life force of the universe, and then you're internalizing it through the inner structure of your body as its channels of energy. Right now, they're very dense because of your emotional involvement with self, others, and the environment. But through this program, they clear and you reestablish psychic or less dense, more subtle energy patterns within your physical form. And that's done with the symbols that you use with your imagination and the mantra and attaining a state of peace. You have to come into the state of calm abiding. They call it shunyata. But when you start to use these 5 energy patterns with this color code, the universe is actually an aware being. And it operates with these 5 categories of awareness, which, like the 5 elements, are inseparable. If I hold this up to the light, they're connected. And light is the basis of your thoughts. Light is the basis of everything. Scientists have proved it. So the water element, when used in practice, whether as a symbol of shamanistically on the relative level, or as the deity Tara, which we use on the, we call the spiritual level, these symbols are designed to bring you into more subtle and subtle energy patterning, both in your body and your mental application, but also because of those two, change your speech pattern. Your every exhale becomes more and more useful outside. And what you say becomes more powerful, more effective, more healing, more togetherness in your speech. So the water element is connecting, directing to this state of unity is how to change everything into a very positive mode. No harm. The second aspect of awareness is through your activities of the bodhisattva, you're using your body, speech, and mind to create auspicious circumstances for healing, not just for you, but for everybody around you and your environment. And everybody around you is animal, human, and spirit. Number three, by intentionally connecting to peace and a state of clarity, these two working together bring you into profound experiences, which, with the guidance of the Lama, produce profound realizations of who and what you really are, and that's all there is. And then those three produce the power of equalizing, leveling the playing field, no high, no low, no outside, no inside. Timelessness, generating all concepts as just that, concepts. Fabrications, arising, presenting themselves, and disappearing. This is what your thoughts do. They come from space, they present themselves, and they go away. If they didn't, we'd be in big trouble. But because they go away, the emotional involvement with them goes away. That's called equanimity. Equality on the relative level. And then finally, we come to this powerful change generated in your situation that magnetizes what's appropriate. It makes things attractive, which is what people want to do in their sexuality, of course, because that's how they get together. This idea of attraction. But these five cannot be separate. They're just apps for your computer brain, like an iPhone, that you can understand and project into this shared experience called the outer, which is so distorted and dangerous today. So when you say mantra of the Tara, you are taking these five, and her symbols of being that deity are these five. And then, because she's a human, she has human qualities, very powerful human qualities, and there are 21 of these. So no matter what deity, bodhisattva symbol you use in Tibetan Buddhism, they all have those 21 qualities. The first three are just compassion, power, and insight. Just those three. But those three evolve into all the others. So if you say the Tara and color are green, you're connecting directly with the air element. It's a healing process for your situation. If you generate the Tara with the guidance of your Lama into, say, the blue element of water, then you apply that to all living beings, just like you did the green, but you're moving the energy into a different patterning, but it's very subtle. If you use the clear light or the white Tara, this is called the long life Tara, it produces just that. Good health, long life, and clear thinking. Establishing a state of peace is the basic. If you move into the energy pattern of the earth element, which we're standing on, everybody's standing on the same earth element, so we're all equal. You know, all the animals and humans are on the earth element. The earth element is gold. Gold is made by the universe disappearing in a flash called a supernova. And in a few seconds, gold is generated and then blasted everywhere in the universe. So we have some of that on this planet. But gold is a symbol, the color yellow. Wealth is associated with it. Good health is associated. Then finally we come to the fire element, which is, you know, all light has a thermal code. Dark or light matter all produces very intense heat or very subtle warmth, like in your body. So this energy of the fire is actually called radiation. And one of the things that we take for granted is gravity. Gravity is actually a form of radiation, and it can be measured in waves. So now we're starting to change this energy patterning of dense, solid, fixed, and permanent into more malleable, we call patterning or light wave energy, which has no boundary, like this transmission. Whether you have wire connection or not, it can be done to a satellite, then to you. That's what we're talking about. So the red tar is very powerful. It actually causes your mind to think in patterns of light pictures. So everything you're imagining with these practices actually stems from the fire tar. This side, 5 states of awareness. This side, the five elements as the mother principle. This side is the method. This side is the world we apply these methods to. So now you know. So you practice. Now this condensed explanation of Tantra, the why, how, when, and what, and then the actual description of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma and the 4 preliminary practices, and the dedication is all connected to the deity yogas of Sutra and Tantra, and all requires the assistance of a Lama or teacher with the backing of the lineage as your support. And in this way you become connected, just like we're connected right now through the web. I guess I should ask Davey if there's more.
You were going to do green tar.
Huh?
Or you're going to do green tar. Practice.
Abby suggested that we actually do a practice.
I would love to actually do a practice. That would be wonderful. We haven't, I think a lot of people here haven't done Tara other than the green, if even the green. So that would be lovely.
Okay, I'll run through the 5. Using the green as the action. Because without action, the other 5 don't make sense. Action is energy called prana or chi. Very necessary for good health, but also for mind development. So the green tar is an action figure as a bodhisattva. It has 21 qualities, but what we focus on in this illusory body practice, we actually are going to do Tantra. We're going to become the deity. We're going to merge instead of using it as an obstacle remover outside, associated with Lama lineage and so forth. We're going to generate it inside. So this transmission comes from the Lama's mind to yours because that's what the Lama is practicing. Lamas don't give any transmission unless they're doing the practice of that transmission. So when you receive the transmission of the Tara, in this case we're starting with the green Tara, you bring the 3 lights of your breathing to the subtle level of the three vibratory sounds of maturity, which are Om, Ah, and Hum. So when you inhale the white light, you hear the sound Om. The white light's filling your lung. When you do the absorption breath of the energy from the elements you just inhaled, spreading through your body, you visualize red light flashing through your body, subtle channels of energy. You hear the sound Ah. This is the action sound. Then you take those two and exhale blue light and think of it pervading space or benefiting beings throughout space, which is our phenomenal world. So we'll do that. You can do this anytime, any place, but it's recommended you at least have the back straight and eyes open. Bring your gaze to the space and light generated in front of you as the metaphor. Then simply bring your focus, your awareness to your breathing as a prana yoga technique. Inhale white light, hear the sound Om. The absorption breath of energy through the body, hear the sound red light, hear the sound Ah. Visually exhaling blue light to space, hear the sound Hum. So you're bringing your imagination, the mantric sound as symbol of power, and your breath, which you have to do anyway to stay alive, together. Inhale white light, Om. Red light energy through the body, Ah. Exhale the results of all beings in space, Hum. When you can settle, start to relax, become peaceful with this practice, with the guidance of your teachers, then you bring all the sound and light together in the center of the heart chakra. So you're relocating from the computer brain to the spiritual center of the universe with a tiny particle. That's a scientific term for light, energy. And in this way, you connect to the dimension of spatial enterprise or awareness. Then focusing on that point, you start to enlarge it until it forms a three-dimensional clear light sphere, as small as you can imagine it, like a tiny drop or bubble of light or tiny sphere. Then enlarge that sphere to about the size of a marble or a large grape in your heart center and color it 5 colors. And this brings in the 5 elements and the 5 states of awareness as that sphere. And inside you put the sound of the green Tara, which is all 5 elements in one sound, is Tom. The actual air element sound is Yang, but we're going to use the Tom, which is letter 5 with a dot over it. And make it 3D, so give it thickness. The Tom rests on the light force of the sun and moon like 2 flat discs under it. It's called a seat, or bases. And then under that is an 8-petal lotus. It can be green or multicolored, and that represents the 8 aspects of your human condition. How you sense, think, emotionally react, and your tendencies which cause results. But with no emotional conflict. That's the lotus. Then you visually send 5-colored light out to all the lamas and all the symbols that the lamas use, called deities, and their protective aspects as being around you in space in vast numbers, which they are. Then they accept the light offering from your heart center, and they all together, like lasers, redirect their heart energy into your heart. You connect. This causes you to become the symbol of power, insight, and compassion, the Bodhisattva, in this case, green Tara. This illusory body is completely made of light like a hologram and dressed in silks with 5 colors, which is the 5 elements. Has 6 kinds of jewelry, which is the symbol of the 6 disciplines of the Bodhisattva, and has a 5-jewel crown, which connects to the 5 practical aspects of awareness. Smiling, young, healthy, greenish complexion, circled with rainbows of light and extending light energy as healing energy in every direction, like a sun. Once you have this patterning down as your body, replace your ordinary body, then you project it to your mother in front, whether you knew her or not. You create your mother, who gave you this, created your body, as the green Tara, mirror image facing you. Then you project it to your family members, father, relatives, friends, and all your lovers, everybody you have karma with, good or bad, the whole 7 billion human race. Arrange these all as this illusory body symbol. What does this symbolize? Compassion, loving kindness, power, and the insight of your natural mind. Then you project it to all the animals in the ocean and on the land, and in your body, which are uncountable. So you start to fill up space with these projections in your mind. Then you think of all the spirit world, all the celestials, all the war god and god spirits, all the deprived spirits, all the psychotic spirits, everywhere in space, in your mind, as green Tara. When you can accomplish this light mandala created with your imagination, is the cause of the heart mantra, these words of power, arising inside the 5-colored sphere as 10 letters around that green tom. And it starts with the Om in front and goes clockwise. Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re So Ha. 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 This is the green Tara and everybody in the universe, your family, all your mothers. Same, all doing what you're doing. Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re So Ha. 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 Now this imaginary process has 4 applications. And you move your mind in these 4. The first one is the tongue with the mantra around it in the heart center. If you can see the lotus, sun, and moon disk and the 5-colored sphere, good. The more imagination you apply to this practice, the better. The second one, you're the green Tara with all of the qualities as a symbol. Everything she wears, the position of her hand, be everything. For instance, the right hand is open in supreme generosity, palm outward. The left hand is holding with the thumb and ring finger to the stem of a lotus that blooms by your left ear, symbolizing loving kindness and compassion. She's sitting with the right leg extended, which means bodhisattva position, ready to go into action. Then you apply this individually and collectively for healing to everybody. So we have these positions: the center position of the seed soluble, the visualization of the Tara, and then projected to space as all sentient beings as healing energy. Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Now, after many recitations of this mantra using the seed soluble of the Tara and the projection to all beings, then focus on the mantra of these 10 letters circling the green tom in your heart center, and the letters Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re Soha are arranged clockwise, and the letters face inward. But when you recite this, you can be part of your visualization to see that moving counterclockwise and filling your body with thousands of subtle energy patterns of light that escape outward to bring health, energy, healing to others and the environment. Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 And you're associating with the air element of movement, wind. Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Then you refer to your chart and move to the water Tara, the blue Tara, using the seed soluble MAM, M-A-M. So the tom disappears to the MAM, and the mantra is the same, but you change to a blue complexion Tara, and then all the sentient beings in the mandala, blue Tara, the water Tara. Om Tara Tu Tare Tu Re Mam Soha. 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 So the Mam is the seed soluble, the mantra circling, generating patterning through your body, and escaping as healing energy through space. Then everybody in your mandala doing the same thing. Equal. Om Tara Tutare Ture Om Soha. 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 As you know, water projects in different forms, but always solid, connected, like cloud, like steam, like ice, or like the ocean's water. So all of this is the energy of this element. The other four are always included, but your main app is this healing element. Om Dharma Tutare Ture Om Soha. Om Dharma Tutare Ture Om Soha. Om Dharma Tutare Ture Om Soha. Also, it brings out the feminine with the mother principle in the practitioner, man or woman. And the next energy pattern we're going to use is the white energy pattern, white Tara, and the seed soul becomes the seed soul of creation sound of space, which is in Tibetan Bam, but in Sanskrit Vam, V-A-M. And you have what it looks like on your chart. That goes in the heart center. Then you change to white Tara, and all sentient beings, white Tara. Om Tara Tutare Ture Om Soha. 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 Then you move to the gold Tara. So the seed salt on your heart center changes to the sound of earth, Lam, L-A-M, in gold, and you become gold Tara, then your projections of all sentient beings. Same. Om Tara Tutare Ture Om Soha. 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 The way you are creating the mandala, you as Tara, the seed cell with the mantra penetrating energy through your body and out to space, and all beings individually or collectively the same, is the healing pattern of the earth element together with the other four. Then you go to the red Tara as the radiation factor of fire. This energy patterning is with the seed cell wrong in the heart center in red. You as a reddish complexion Tara, all beings same, and you sound the mantra. Om Tara Tutare Ture Om Soha. 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 Now we return to the green Tara because that's the action symbol. And when you do this one, all the other 5 Tara colors outside, and you're the action, body, speech, and mind of this Bodhisattva symbol of green Tara with the air element. So you change the sea symbol to Yam, green in color, to green Tara, all sentient beings sing. Om Tara Tutare Ture Yam Soha. Om Tara Tutare Ture Yam Soha. Om Tara Tutare Ture Yam Soha. Om Explanation of the mantra. Om, everything appears in clarity or light. Tara, powerful Bodhisattva mother, 21 qualities of compassion, power, and insight. Tutari, swiftly clearing or destroying negativity or obstacle. Ture, the obstacles themselves, however they are, poison, situations, whatever. And Soha for everybody. For the Soha, I mean, this energy patterning in the body and projected is always increasing. No end. Always increasing. Always available, every being. No one left out. And of course, the environment too. Om Tara Tutari Ture Lam Soha 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 Om Tara Tutari Ture Tom So Up. Now, all of this practice is called the creation stage of tantric practice. Directly connecting with the element and the subtle energies of these for healing. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, multi-level. Applied impartially to everyone, everywhere. The second stage of practice is to remove the training software and blank your screen. Because this is just mind training. This is not the ultimate. So what you do is you bring all sentient beings into you. Visualize that. Infinite number of beings streaming into you from every direction like rain into a lake. And you as the central symbol in space disappear into the mantra, the letters around the seed syllable. Then those letters disappear one by one, starting with the Om into the seed syllable, Om, or whatever seed syllable you're using. And the seed syllable absorbs the lotus, sun, and moon disc. Then the ceaseless sphere vanish into voidness like space, the mother element. In this non-conceptual state, simply remain in the present. Confine the mind to the present. No past, no future. Then refine the present to smaller and smaller increments of time. And relax. No drama. Whatever arises, do not attach to it. It's like Facebook. Just let it arise and disappear. Trick is to stay relaxed and present. This is the second stage of tantric practice. It's called the fulfillment stage, and leads to wonderful experiences and the realization of your true natural mind. No good or bad. No friends or enemies. None of that drama programming. Just central perceptions within the body. Don't label. thoughts, emotional program dramas don't attach. Just let them flow. The sound of the bell is your practice. The fulfillment stage of practice is where it goes. Then to finish this transmission today, we do the dedication prayer. And this one we're using is at the end of the noon grow practice of the 4 preliminary practices. And it's at the bottom of the refuge sheet that we advise every practitioner to get a copy, both sides if possible, along with this program, both sides. We first do it in Sanskrit. Bring method and motivation together in front of your heart chakra. Direct the energy outward. Ewa di nirdu da chagya chapal drugir ne drova chinking malu pa dei sawa goparsha Sarje kusum nempai jimla don choni maker dempai jimla don Yendu miche dumpai jimla ki jitar gomo momon drupar shon. By this virtue of having realized Mahamudra, may I quickly establish all beings in that state without exception. By the blessings of the 3 vehicles of the Buddha being established, by the blessing of the wishes of the Sangha being unwavering, and by the practice of penetrating clarity is unchanging, may this and all dedication prayers be fulfilled. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be established in bliss. And may all beings, especially humans, become emotionally stable. Right now, in this way. Tuchiche, mahalo. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions? Whatever?
Duchi Che Lama Tashi. Does anybody have any questions? Any of you wonderful participants on air or? Do you guys have any questions? Yeah. Let me see if I can go to our gallery.
And anybody that wants to Skype, then arrange that through Abby, abi@aloha.net, or any other assistant. And I just want to show a book that Lama mentioned, Autobiography, My Teacher in Honolulu. The title of which is, I Can See the Flea on Your Nose, but I Can't See the Yak Sitting on My Nose. This is his idea of a Tibetan saying that we can always see the least flaw of anybody else's, but never the monstrous flaw of our own egocentric way of being. So his life is based on that Tibetan saying. I can see the flea on your nose, but I can't see the yak on my nose. He has a great sense of humor. And he's a world traveler. He's 84. He's everywhere, like the Dalai Lama. This book is available also.
So that would be recommended reading from you, Lama Tashi, that book by Lama Rinchen.
That and the little red book that Lama Rinchen wrote called The Story of All of It Simply Said, which is a condensed practice book that shows you all of your present situation and how to develop with these programs, with this software.
That little one's a little bit challenging to get a hold of, so I'm going to see if I can get a large order and dispense them to our students.
They printed up 1,000, but they went fast, and they haven't done a rerun on it. So there's no copyright on any of this stuff that we present. You can copy it as much as you want, disseminate it, return copies to us if you like. But this is the way the Dharma is transmitted in print. And all of the Tibetan transmission from the Buddha Shakyamuni, only 2% is presented to the cultures of the planet. Some in German, some in Spanish, some in American or Canadian, so forth. Anyway, thank you all very much for a nice session.
Thank you, Lama Tashi.
Thank you, Lama Tashi. I just wanted to make a note to everyone joining us online and here that donations are always appreciated for Lama Tashi, and the suggested donation for classes is $20. Is that correct, Lama Tashi?
Yeah, that's good.
That's suggested. So wonderful. And you can make your donation
Appropriate. We have a PayPal button on our website.
at kawaii.org. You can go to the website, and I recommend actually making monthly donations. You can actually set it up on PayPal to just automatically donate, however much a month to support Lama Tashi and the Dharma. And then Lama Tashi and Abby present every Monday and Thursday evening, and we have a newsletter sign up on their website that's new, and we're going to hopefully get that running in the next week or so. So if you want to be notified of Dharma classes, you can sign up on the website, or as Lama Tashi suggested, email Abby directly at abby@aloha.net. Sound good?
Good.
Yay! Okay, awesome, wonderful. Well, thank you, Lama Tashi. We love you. I'm going to post this recording in all of the groups so everyone who wasn't able to join us can see it and view it. And anything else before we sign off?
Thank you, Martin and Davey, for presenting this to many other beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lama Tashi. We love you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Abby, for setting it up. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll see you all soon. Love you guys.
Mani padme hum, mani padme